and then you just start bending your fingers.
We keep the chemical companies out of the bush. Back in the day when we were learning, we were asked to do it, and it would be like, oh, it just didn't feel right, you know? Inherently, it was just like, why are we bringing poison into this nature, like into this natural bush where there's all these tiny little animals and birds coming in to eat them, and it would just confound us every time. So we just stopped using it. Like our boss would say, oh yeah, you know, do glyphosate, this hillside of Ochna. And then we would just go, what if we don't? And that was the whole impetus for starting Bush Technique. So yeah, it feels really necessary, actually, to treat these green spaces with like respect and care, because there's guys living in there. They didn't ask for highways and houses and people with their various chemicals, you know. I think it's like that taking notice, you know, when you do bush regen, you start to really observe. Yeah, you come into more of a close focus with the natural world, and then you start to see and question and be curious about all the little critters living in there and the fungi, plants themselves. It's like this plant has always been here. It wasn't planted. And through all of this invasion and colonization and hardening and, you know, modernization, and they're still here, right? There's got a deep seed bank under the bitumen and all of that. So we need to really start sitting up and not just paying attention, but actioning that you know, making that respect and transform into, we call it regeneration, restoration, or a lot of different terms you can use, caring for country.
Okay, so let's do a little planting demo and then you guys can get into it. You got your digger and you'll need your rammer, which is kind of fun. Yeah, ramming stick.
Fun shape.
Yeah, they're just basically old bits of weedy tree. Yep. Oh, that's my old trusty one. It's like a bone. Yeah, so effectively they're the two tools that you'll need to plant in a waterway, and I'll show you why we need the rammer afterwards. Got your spot. You want to dig your hole. Beautiful conditions here. All sand. So you want to make sure that the hole is at least as deep as the tube stock, so the height of the pot. So that's plenty deep. And get a little pinch of fert, just like, you know, a teaspoon. And then you just pop them in the ground. I'm going to lift it up a little bit higher. It's still going to be in a bit of a bowl, a bit of a shallow bowl, so that when we water it, the water will want to pull in around it. Yeah. And now we use our rammer to further accentuate that reservoir around the outside. We're using the rammer for a couple of different reasons. We want to make that nice bowl like we just talked about, but we also want to reduce the air pockets. So it's different from planting veggies, which, you know, are safe in your veggie garden, and you're going to water regularly, and, you know, you're going to harvest soon, that sort of thing. In bush regen, we found that you just want to create a home for this plant where it's going to be able to put its roots out, its micro roots. Let's give it maybe a third of a bucket. Very good. Yeah, so the last little bit I would do is mulch it, just with whatever natural mulch is around.
No bare soil.
No bare soil.
Idea of a food forest is more from the perspective of where we are now. How do we create an abundant, permanent culture and obviously basing our food production on perennials marries stability of the land with abundance and productivity and permanence. So everything that those guys did with permaculture was modeled on what people have been doing for millennia, from observing cultural practices in various cultures that had food forest cultures. Food forest goes back a long way. What is that? Daikon. Daikon radish. Radish.
Oh wow, beautiful.
Get your rice knife. It's a matter of just grabbing it. Chop it up a bit. Yeah. We all become custodians and stewards of everywhere.
Yeah. When you reach that point where you realise the whole world is my garden.
Yeah, that's right.
The whole world is your garden.
To mulch it on top.
Flush of sugars going out there when you're cutting these things back. The roots are releasing all kinds of nutrients that signal everything else to start growing as well. Not only the things that are going to bounce back that you've chopped, but the things around them. In the syntropic system, you can do a similar thing, just pulsing the annuals through the perennials. So you're constantly watching the flow of the needs of the different plants flowing in. And you need disturbance. So there's a certain element of disturbance with your annuals, right? And disturbance comes from animals like bandicoots. So that's happening anyway, right? And then when you're like chopping and dropping and pulsing the energy through, there's a certain amount of disturbance as well. And so every time you plant something in there, there's a disturbance. Disturbance is important, but behind the disturbance, there's a stability of structure that maintains a permanence of kind of integrity of the system. So you've got a balance between the two. The balance between disturbance and stability is really important. It's like crucial.
Okay, so the term humanure was created by Joseph Jenkins because there was really no term for processing and seeing value in human waste. So poo, wee, toilet paper and carbon materials. So that humanure is what I call the nutrient base that we recover from our own poo, basically. So what it does, it cycles and changes the headspace that this is a waste product that should be sent away somewhere to be dealt with by other people, and then it becomes something that we manage on site and then reap the benefits of. So what we've basically got here is this is a council-approved humanure system called a nature loo that we started with. This normally goes into the house under the catchment area, so you've got the toilet sitting above. We pretty quickly realised that this was a problem on a couple of levels. One, it's too heavy to lift, so we changed that. We've got a urine separator going on with the toilet now, and we've gone with a 20-litre bucket, which is much lighter and easy to carry. And these just become our first stage batching for the humanure. It comes straight out of the house mixed with toilet paper and shredded paper and some sawdust. So they sit in here, we build them up until they're full. We add a couple of layers of fresh soil or soil from underneath the second phase humanure, and take our toilet material out of the house and add it straight to this one. Keep building it till it's full and let it sit for a year. And in the meanwhile, this one is ready to go and put straight into the fruit trees and the vegetable garden and everything that we're using to produce food, because this is awesome soil. It's really amazing.
So that's your pool, my pool,
Yeah.
right? That's the pool from people
Paper
that lives here.
and, you know, microorganisms, millions of them working in this pile.
Well, it's not pool anymore, it's soil.
I'm hoping that these compost systems will then get the heat to really process anything. You can use time or heat for rendering this useful soil. So this is a time-based method. So they sit in here for a really long time, up to a year, and then we put them in here and they sit in here for another year, and then they go onto the garden. So that way we know that we're not going to be transferring anything from human pathogens into the veggie garden. So all the microorganisms are doing all the hard work and they're rendering it beautiful, fertile soil. So you need to keep the carbon up, and that's been a challenge as well, having enough carbon, which is what feeds all the microorganisms to break down the human manure. So if they don't have enough carbon, they just can't get active. They're not well fed. So this is something that we've just been experimenting with for quite a while, and so far so good. Like the vegetable garden is really speaking of the fertility of the system, and we're really comfortable using it. So when I categorise using a composting toilet, I don't want any smells and I don't want any flies or insects. So those two things are really key to success. Keep the poo in the loop.
How to get hands in the poo.
In the last few years, a lot of people come out to the reef and make comments like, I had to come and see it before it's gone, which kind of surprises me. And I think that's a bit sad. It's a bit disappointing, but I think that's the wrong story to tell. So this idea of the Great Barrier Reef is all dead and dying just doesn't add up. There are parts of it that we've damaged, and there are parts of it that are under enormous stress. I don't think telling children that the Great Barrier Reef won't be there when they grow up is very helpful. Our role is to connect people with the reef. People won't protect something that they don't love. Our job is to make them love it.
The more people that we see do the right thing, that impacts us. We're absolutely observers of other people. We're absolutely watching what our families and friends do. We care about being seen to be doing the right thing. It doesn't matter how radical a person you are, we are absolutely social beings who look to each other in supermarkets, in cinemas, at the shops, at the curb putting the bins out. You look at what other people do. None of us are that special. We all kind of live in a city, we live in a city or in a community with other people, and we want to do the right thing. We're all part of it and we all have a role, and the individual it can feel really helpless, but once you start to realise that you have influence and there are things you can do, then you do look at things differently.
Like that ironwood tree. So for me, I come from that ironwood tree to Laura. Seed. My forefathers. There's been no broken line. And we have sites there that go back 60,000 years. In Australia, our people have always been here. Yes, we've been removed. Now we're coming home, and we are here to stay. And part of that journey is about sharing.
thousands and thousands of generations.
As an artist, I want to tell stories about nature, in nature, and for nature. But I have realized that being behind the camera isn't enough. I want to get my hands dirty. That's how this podcast documentary series came to life. We're not only learning from our mentors. Together, we're also committing to an action that gives back to Earth. Or how I like to say, a la pacha. My name is Mauri, and this is Environment Art Stories.
Treat these green spaces with respect.
We all become custodians and stewards.
Building soil from what's available.
Someone showed me a Christmas tree worm. That was the moment that changed my life.
The whole world is your garden.